Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are up to number five. Goal Line Hockey Podcast, episode number 5. We have a lot to talk about today. A couple of news around the New York Islanders, a couple of things around the league with those restricted free agents. Guys like Jake Debrusk, Mikhail Sergachev have re-signed their contracts. Well, we take a look at all of that in this podcast. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, guys, make sure to smash the like button and the subscribe button down below. And if you've done that already, I'll give you a second to do that if you have not done that already. If you've already done both of those things, make sure to comment as well, guys. I appreciate the support over the last couple of weeks. Number 700, guys. As of today, we are at 700 subscribers. So thank you so much for that, because this channel would not be what it is today if it were not for you guys out there. I appreciate that so much. And the road to 1K is officially a go, guys. 800, 900, nah. We want 1K. And from there, we'll move on up from there. So, guys, here we go. Episode 5. We're going to start off looking at the New York Islanders. Guys, this is a rough day for Islanders fans, but it's also a good day. It's how you look at it. So Johnny Boychuk, 13 years in the NHL, is officially, well, his career is over, according to the New York Islanders page. And this is interesting to look at because he did not, the NHL or the Islanders page did not say he retired. There's a difference between ending career and retiring, apparently. And if you're Lou Lamoriello, you're looking for any loophole possible. If you know anything, maybe you're wondering, what the hell is he talking about? All right. So in Toronto, Lou Lamoriello was the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs for a couple of seasons. And the way he finagles the salary cap and what he did with the New Jersey Devils and their championships in the early 2000s and their success in the late 90s, a lot of that has to do with his ability to look at the NHL rules probably more than anybody else in the world and find a way to finagle the rules a little bit. And we are seeing him probably do that right now. As what he did in Toronto was, there was a player, Stefan Robida, came over from the Dallas Stars. Let's just say he had some injury issues, was not a very good defenseman. So Lou Lamoriello decided, all right, well, we need cap space. So what we're going to do is, Stefan Robida, we're going to send you to Robida Island. You're going to stay there, and you're going to keep your mouth shut, and you're going to keep your Twitter, Instagram, whatever, keep it low-key. And we're just going to say that you're not playing in the NHL anymore. We get that salary cap space back. We'll slip you a couple extra bucks, and stay quiet. Shh, stay quiet. I think that's what the Islanders are doing with Johnny Boychuk. And that's kind of a shame because of what Johnny has added to the New York Islanders for the past 4 seasons. But business is business, baby, and that's unfortunately where Johnny Boychuk stands. He still has 2 years left at $12 million over that deal. He signed a 6-year, $36 million contract 4 years ago, and he's still got 2 years left on that deal. He signed that at 32. He's now 36. He will be 38 by the end of this deal. He's currently on the, according to Daily Cap Friendly, he's on the New York Islanders injured reserve, the IR, which means more than likely that will be LTIR, which means the Islanders free up $6 million of cap space, which means their current 2.9 becomes 8.9? 8.9. So, just making sure I'm doing the math right, which is more than likely enough to re-sign Matt Barzal. And if it's not enough, you find a way to move out some more cap space, which the Islanders may still have to do anyway. But we've been talking about that too recently, as Josh Bailey has been a name for the New York Islanders that could get traded. And that would be a shame for the Islanders, but you know what? You look at some of their forward depth coming up. Michael Dal-Cole showed that he is a pretty decent bottom 6 power forward. The emergence of guys like Kiefer Bellows and Oliver Wahlstrom, potentially becoming top 6 forwards in the NHL, is going to be big for the New York Islanders. And we've also heard rumors about Andrew Ladd potentially being another guy that could retire here over the next couple weeks for the New York Islanders. So if that is indeed the case, if Andrew Ladd and his oh my God, Thank you, Garth Snow. $5.5 million per season for the next 3 years. That's another deal that we could potentially see on the way out for the Islanders. So these are all Garth Snow moves. So thank you very much, Garth Snow, for your crappy contracts. So anyway, speaking of crappy contracts, we're going to take a look at some good contracts. As the Boston Bruins the other day re-signed 24-year-old Jake Debrusk to a 2-year, $7.35 million contract. Comes in at a little under $4 million per season for Jake Debrusk. Don Sweeney makes a great move here with Jake Debrusk. Now, the problem with this, and we're going to see this with the Sergachev deal as well, is this is walking them straight into free agency when the deal is done. So right now, this is a win for the Boston Bruins. It's under $4 million. But when all the power goes to Jake Debrusk in 2 years from now, he will be able to make as much money as he wants from anywhere in the NHL. So the Bruins' leverage gets taken away in 2 years. But with the way the NHL is right now, we're seeing plenty of teams around the league do this. The New York Islanders just did this with Ryan Pulock, Devin Taves with the Colorado Avalanche. And now we're seeing it here with Boston Bruins, Jake Debrusk, and Mikhail Sergachev. And that's the next guy we'll be taking a look at. Guys, Mikhail Sergachev signs a unbelievable contract with the Lightning. A 3-year deal, $14.4 million on the deal for Mikhail Sergachev. 4.8 per season. This is a sweetheart deal for the young Russian defenseman. He spent 4 seasons in his current ELC contract. It was 3 years, but it became 4 because of him not playing in that first season in Montreal. So it actually gained him another year of the ELC deal. He's 22 years old. He's put up 40 points in his NHL career. 40 points in a season. He's more likely a 35, 40-point defenseman, which is very solid. And as he continues to get older, he's only 22 years old, and on a stacked Tampa Bay Lightning team, just winning a Stanley Cup, he's got to feel pretty good. And at this point, you know that he is not looking for the money right now. He wants to win some Stanley Cups first with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the problem with this is the same thing we just talked about with those other guys. As he's 22 now, you do the math on 3 years, he will, I believe, be walking into free agency. He will be 25. He's right around that age. So he may not even be in restricted free agent territory at that point. Depends on how old he is. But he could be walking into free agency, and that's exactly what these guys are doing at this point. Seems like with the salary cap the way it is, that's the general manager's new way of negotiating contracts. Listen, you're going to come in cheap now. You'll take the under $5 million now. But in 3 years from now, when you could walk, you're going to have all the leverage in the world. Hopefully the flat salary cap doesn't remain in 5 years from now, but at this point, that may be a possibility. So just something to keep in mind. But this is a great deal for Mikhail Sergachev, A, because he gets to play with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think anybody's complaining about that. And B, he's going to get his money in a couple years. He just has to continue to play the way he's been playing. And as a top-rated defenseman in the NHL at such a young age, we are seeing players take the approach, I want to win more than I want to make that extra $1 or $2 million. I'm sure he's going to be getting money on the side. The no state tax in Florida. This is a win for Mikhail Sergachev, and it's also a win for Julian Breezeball and the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right, so with that out of the way, that was really the big topics I wanted to talk about today. But we're going to take a look at some interesting things. We're going to look at some of the comments because some of them were quite interesting this week as things got pretty interesting. So let's take a look right here. So also another thing I want to mention, it is not, okay, so just for reference, I started my YouTube channel in March of 2018 and I looked the other day at those videos. And if you really, I'm just warning you now, if you want to look back at my first couple videos in particular, cringe is not saying justice for what those videos were. Now, I hope in 3 years from now I look at this and think, oh my God, that was cringe. But you want to talk about, it's not even cringe. Cringe does not do it justice. It was bad. I was sitting here, hello, let's take a look. It was really bad. So if you want to check that out, more than likely, it's it's pretty hard to watch. But that's besides the point. I started that channel last year. Around this time last year, I hit 100 subscribers. This time last year, I hit 100. So year 2, almost year 2 in February, I've already hit 700 subscribers. So in a year, it's not even been a full year, I've already gotten 600 more subscribers than last year. So guys, I appreciate the support so much. This thing is freaking blowing up. I wouldn't be able to do that without you guys. So I really appreciate the support. The channel's been going crazy. And I can thank my fellow Leaf fans out there that love to berate that video I talked about a couple weeks ago with the Leafs. But it keeps generating views, so I'm not going to sit here and complain too much. So thank you, Leaf fans in particular, but thank you fans around the NHL, especially the Ranger fans out there. You guys seem to love my channel despite all the Islander stuff, but I appreciate that very much. And obviously, I have my fellow my fans that are always in the comment section. I hate calling you guys fans because I don't think of it like that, but I really do appreciate your guys' support. And it's just really, it's freaking amazing, guys. I'm just so happy, and I really appreciate that. All right, so we're going to start things off with a fellow guy that is always in the comment section, NP22. As he mentioned, as this was the Buchnevich video, I talked about Pavel Buchnevich being on the trade block for the New York Rangers, specifically because of Capo Caco and Alexei Lafreniere, Filipino, Brett Howden, all the young guys that the Rangers are developing, Vitaly Kravtsov. I can name off a billion other players in that Rangers depth system. But MP22 says, oh man, I love the novel, dude. And speaking of last week, you mentioned that you were tired. Or first off, I have to ask the question, why were you up at 4 a.m. watching that? But that's dedication, brother. So I appreciate that. I just laugh because that's how I text too. I'm really bad at that. So I'm not going to knock you too much this week for it. Plus, I could tell you are a hardcore hockey fan, and I freaking love it, brother. So let's get into his comment. To be honest, I don't know why people are hating on the Rangers for having Jack Johnson on the team and saying that right defenseman is a mess. I feel like those people that say that fail to realize guys like Jack Johnson are only here just to fill that hole on D for now until our young D prospects come up. That's a very good point. Once they all come up and hopefully develop to their full potential, the D can look the best it's ever been in Rangers history. You'll have guys like Fox, D'Angelo, Trouba, assuming he plays like the Trouba in Winnipeg or better, Lindgren, Miller, Lundqvist, Zach Jones, Matt Robertson, and Braden Schneider. There will be so much depth in the back end for the Rangers in the future, and for people to make fun that we signed Jack Johnson, and we still have Brendan Smith, just simply want to ignore the fact that those players are temporary. They are there just to complete a defensive line so the Rangers can actually be allowed to compete against other teams. You're not lying. You're totally on point, brother. Allowed to compete against other teams, and they are also choosing to play these veteran guys to play instead so they don't have to bring up any young guns to the NHL too soon because it could potentially ruin their development as a player if you rush them. And specifically defensemen, that's a very good point. And if you don't believe me, a perfect example of this was Leash Anderson. And we're going to take a look at this in a second because I think it has to do with the head coach, David Quinn. Now, he will get Leash Anderson. The guy never found his identity as a player because he were never gave him the time to develop. David Quinn. Now he will get a new start with the Kings and won't be surprised if he becomes a solid player in the NHL eventually because the Kings will allow him to take his time to develop. That's true. I like what the Rangers are doing. I don't like when people act like we need to win now and compete. The Rangers are still in that long-term look still, which is fine, but soon they will start to switch to that present-day look, if you get what I mean, to eventually try to compete for a Stanley Cup. They are on the right track so far. I really like what they're doing. It's tough as a fan because, yes, you want them to win now just so we don't have to see them lose over and over again. But to think what this team will look like after we complete this rebuild and what the celebration in June will feel like as a fan. It's going to be amazing. And they'll realize that all of this was worth the wait. Ranger fans need to be patient and just watch the kids grow into NHL stars. And if this rebuild works out as planned, a lot of other NHL teams will try to copy this rebuild when it's time that their team needs to go through one. Keep up the great work, but let's go Rangers, LOL. All right, well, I'm not going to say that again, but you got me to say what I just said, which will not be happening. So I see what you did there, MP22. But thank you, brother. Always commenting on the videos. You're my guy, man. You freaking always putting in comments. You call me underrated. I'm not going to lie. That was a little bit of a clout builder, but I appreciate that, man. Appreciate the support, NP22. All right, so again, as last week, he writes a novel, which I freaking love because it gives me more to talk about. We're only 15 minutes into this podcast, so lets me build up a little bit more time on the podcast. So a ton to break down. First thing, he's talking about the defense, and that's a very good point with Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson and Brendan Smith, they're just placeholders. Now, let's be honest, guys. Everybody forgets the fact that, all right, they don't put up numbers. Everybody looks at their Corsi, their numbers, all the stat guys, whatever. Johnny Boychuk just retired from the New York Islanders. Do you think last season Johnny Boychuk's most valuable asset was his goal-scoring ability or his ability to shoot the puck or any of that? No. He was there as a leader in the locker room, showing the young guys, how to be professionals. And I think people underrate how important that is because we don't see it on an everyday basis. But the guys in that locker room absolutely do. You look at the Edmonton Oilers back during the oil change when they had all these first overall picks. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, Nail Yakupov. And how did all those guys turn out? Okay. Silence. Crickets, right? Because it didn't work out. Because they had all these young, talented players, but they didn't have those professional leader guys in the room to help those guys develop into what they would become. They just didn't have that. And that's something that I think is just a glaring example. We've seen it around the league in other scenarios. I think to a degree we've seen it with the Buffalo Sabres. Whether you love it or hate it, I think there's something to that. But you look at the Rangers blue line, you have 1 year left on Brendan Smith's $4.3 million. Whatever. It's 1 year. Who gives a shit? And then you've got Jack Johnson for over $1 million for, again, 1 year. It's duration. That's all that matters. They were able to keep those on there's a 1 year deal for Johnson. It doesn't really matter. He's 33 years old. He'll get traded at the deadline, and the Rangers are done with it. And they can bring up one of those young defensemen. So, and you look at what they have. I mean, Anthony Bedetto, he was with Nashville, I believe, for a little while. He was kind of an AHL call-up, so he's nothing that crazy. You've got Adam Fox, Ryan Lindgren, Tony DeAngelo, and Jacob Trouba. And then it brings up the question, I think this is the Rangers' opportunity where they're going to give David Quinn one more chance this year. And I think, don't be surprised that we see David Quinn get fired this year. I think the Rangers more than likely are going to regress this season. And not to any fault of the players, not Mika Zibanejad, not Artemi Panarin. I think this is going to be because of David Quinn. I do not think David Quinn is a coach that is going to win an NHL championship. I just don't see it. I like what David Quinn has done in the rebuild portion, but even that, he really hasn't. I mean, look at who has he really developed on this Rangers team. I mean, Artemi Panarin, he already came an NHL star. Mika Zibanejad, you could maybe make an argument for Zibanejad, maybe an argument for Ryan Strome. But everybody else, I mean, Capo Caco wasn't a world beater last year. They've traded Lias Anderson, who NP22 mentioned, is going to probably thrive and become probably a pretty successful player with the Los Angeles Kings now. So, guys like Philip Hedl, he had some issues last year with the coaching staff. So I think this is the last year for David Quinn. At some point next year, I'm predicting David Quinn will get fired. And I hate doing that, like saying guys are going to get fired or lose their job, because I'm not really like that, but I'm going to be like that. I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't think David Quinn will be the head coach of the New York Rangers by the end of next season. And that may be a hot take, call it whatever, but I think if the Rangers want to move forward, you've got to look at a Mike Babcock or, I mean, I think Peter Laviolette would have been a good coach for the New York Rangers, but he's obviously down in Washington now. What's his name? Gerard Gallant from Vegas. He would be a good head coach for this team. So, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's going to work for David Quinn. I think some Ranger fans still have a lot of hype around him, but we're starting to see that kind of wear off. And it's more of a, what have you done for me lately? And the Rangers have not won a playoff round in a couple years, and they're in a rebuild. So that's been the theme they've gone with. But the Rangers, if the expectations are high enough this year, and if the Rangers miss the playoffs, I think we could see David Quinn lose his job, which I think long-term helps guys, like these young defensemen we will likely see at some point next season with the New York Rangers. So, appreciate the comment, MP22. I completely agree. I think the Rangers have been taking a lot of flack. I think a lot of Ranger fans are going to get upset by me saying that they're going to lose David Quinn. They're not going to make the playoffs next year. I just think there's too much uncertainty right now with this team, and I think they're going in the right direction, but I think David Quinn is at that point where this is his year, whether he gets into the playoffs and they go on a run or they miss the playoffs and David Quinn gets fired. I'm going with David Quinn probably not being here next year, but I'd love to see what you guys say in the comments down below. What do you think of the New York Rangers going into next season? So thank you, MP22, for that comment. All right, so this was back on my All-Star and the Winter Classic being postponed, as this is a rumor. I'm not saying this is truth because this is the first time I'm hearing this, so I just want to specify that this is not official. This is just rumor. So Timothy Frith says New Jersey will likely host the 2022 NHL Winter Classic, Devils vs. Flyers at Red Bull Arena in Harrison. The 2022 NHL All-Star Game, North America vs. the World in the preview of the 2022 Winter Olympics at Prudential Center in Newark. And the 2022 NHL Stadium Series, Devils vs. Rangers at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford. All right, so this guy seems like a Devils fan, but I would love to see that. That would be fucking amazing because I'm from New York. I'm from Long Island. Don't dox me now because you know where I'm from, but that would be really interesting. I think that's something that we could potentially see. Now, I think the reason for this is you look at like Toronto. They have a lot of hockey events in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or in bigger areas, and especially with the situation with New York and building the game in Northeast, we know how big the game is, so obviously fans would show up. Obviously, with this whole pandemic and things like that is going to have an effect on how soon we see this stuff come back. But I would not be surprised. I think we could see a really cool Winter Classic. I'd love to see a game at MetLife Stadium. And I'd love to see the Islanders in that, based off of where the Islanders sit. But the Devils and the Rangers are the bigger market right now. Maybe not the Devils. That's why I think the Islanders could have an opportunity at that. But again, location. The fact that it's going to be at MetLife Stadium, that's in New Jersey. That's in northern Jersey where the Devils play. So you're going to get more attendance from Devils fans. So that situation, it probably favors the Devils in that regard. And unfortunately for the Islanders, they once again get skunked out of a Winter Classic, which would be a shame, but that's kind of how it goes. But I really like your thought there, Timothy Frith. Appreciate the comment. And guys, predict, where do you think the next Winter Classic will be held in 2022? Do you think it'll be in Jersey? Do you think it'll be in Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, maybe even Florida? Guys, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Timothy Frith, for the feedback. Guys, it's Ali Desh time. We are going to take a look at Ali Desh as he left a couple of speedy comments in the comment section the other day. So Ali Desh commented on the California video on the best team in California. Is it the Ducks, the Sharks, the Kings? And he mentioned all three California teams seem to be hot garbage right now. Anaheim is always sneaky somehow. If only one of them were to make the playoffs, I would bet on them, even though I can't stand them. Appreciate that, Ali Desh. Yeah, I agree. I think the Ducks could be the best team. And obviously I'm going to say that biased because I do like the Ducks. But I think overall, I think the Sharks are going to take a big hit. I think that defense got torn up, and it depends on how healthy guys like Tomas Hertl and Logan Couture are. And the Kings are the worst team, but I don't think they really care in LA right now because they've probably got the best prospect system, if not at the very least top 5 prospect systems in the NHL. So maybe being the worst team next year isn't I don't think they really care about that. But I appreciate the support, Ali Desh, as always. So talking about Stuchla, he mentioned that personally, I'd prefer him to develop in Germany this year. 2021 is going to be a weird and ridiculous season anyways. Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe that's a good opportunity for him to stay in Europe, continue to develop. I agree with that, Ali Desh. And then in the podcast, he rang off a couple of comments. And the first one, he said, no yo at the beginning. Oh, man. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. We fixed that this week, though. So I did do that just for you, Ali Desh, of course. So I appreciate that. We got that going. Don't worry. We got the yo back. All right. We brought that back. So. And then Ali Desh, he says, I've fallen behind a couple weeks. Sorry, bro. Long story short, this is my main account now. Ali Desh is gone. Ali Desh is gone. Oh, man. Now I've got like 20 to 30 videos to catch up on. Man, you make a lot of content. That's my man. Listen, the grind is real, brother. If we want to get to 1K, I'm going to have some sleepless nights making these videos for you guys. So I'm off work the next couple days, so I have more than enough time to speed out a shit ton of content this weekend. So I appreciate the support, Ali Desh. Guys, make sure to check out his content. I hate doing plugs like this, but Ali Desh, it's Ali Dez now, not Ali Desh. He did change his YouTube, so go check out his channel. He looks pretty cool. I don't know if he posts anything on there or not, but just check him out because he's a pretty cool dude. And then the last comment he mentioned, he says, what do you mean Winnipeg needs a right shot defenseman? They've got Bufflin, Myers, and Trouba. Oh, wait. Yeah, Winnipeg, they need some help. So, yes, thank you, Ali. Can you just mention down below, is it Ali Dej or Ali Desh? I'm going with Ali Dej right now because that's what it says here on your thing. But I appreciate the support as always, brother. You're the man. All right, so let's take a look at some other. Let's take a look. All right, so we got Nordic 97. I know you've been on here before. You're probably a Quebec Nordique fan based off of your avatar thing. You said, damn, bro, you have grown a lot. Kevin Hayes at 6 makes me laugh, even as a Flyers fan. Yeah, so guys, if you haven't checked that out, so basically there was an NHL Network fan list, and they mentioned that Kevin Hayes was the 6th best center in the NHL, ahead of Elias Pettersson, ahead of some guys. I was like, are you kidding me? Jack Eichel? So make sure to check that out. It was pretty funny, but I appreciate the support, Nordic 97. And then he mentioned Dinboo. What the heck? He said, yay. Hi, I'm here from Nordic 97. So I appreciate the support. Let's take a look. Okay, so in my last podcast last week, Justin Mercado, thank you for the feedback. He mentioned that Sabres may have turned the corner this offseason. This might be the year they end their playoff drought. I love the moves of bringing in Stahl and Hall. I appreciate the support, Justin Mercado. Really cool name. If that's actually your name, that's a pretty freaking sweet name. So I appreciate the support, brother. The Buffalo Sabres, man, they look pretty solid, and I think they're going to look very different this year. You look at some of the moves that's maybe underrated. I think that Jordan Stahl trade was a very underrated move, and the fact it only cost them Marcus Johansson, that's a steal for the Buffalo Sabres. You look at some of the other moves they made. Obviously, Taylor Hall, that's one everybody's talking about. They bring back Sam Reinhart. Again, that's a big one. We need to see the emergence of guys like Tage Thompson, who came over from the infamous Ryan O'Reilly trade. We need to see the emergence of Rasmus Dahlin. I think we need to see him continue to develop. I think Linus Ullmark, he's 27 years old. Guys, how much longer are you going to give Linus Ullmark? Everybody's been saying he's this great starter. I'm starting to lose faith in that assessment of Linus Ullmark. You know, he's getting to a point now where he's really got to get to that next level. And if he doesn't do that this season, this may be the end of the road for him, and the Buffalo Sabres have to look elsewhere in between the pipes. Obviously, you have young, rookies like Dylan Cousins, who was a first-round pick last year from the Lethbridge Hurricanes, he needs to develop. He's going to be a very exciting player to watch. So, guys, the Buffalo Sabres, they are on the upward trajectory. I'm very excited to see what they do. Justin Mercado, thank you so much for the feedback, brother. Much appreciated. Let's take a look. So we got one more. Yossi Sandler from the LA Kings New Era video mentioned, I don't see the Kings putting Byfield on the wing because he is a center. Yeah, see, the reason Daily Faceoff mentioned that. I'm not saying that's what's going to end up happening, but according to Daily Faceoff, if they want him on a certain line, they may throw him on the wing. At the end of the day, we're going to probably see him play center. He's going to be a center. He's a second overall pick. But you look at some guys around the league where it just playing at center in the NHL doesn't work. We've seen Anthony Beauvillier for the New York Islanders, Josh Bailey for the New York Islanders. Those are just two from the Islanders that I know of in particular. Alex Galchenyuk with the Montreal Canadiens, Jonathan Drouin, guys that are centers when they're drafted and move to the wing because they don't have that ability. It just happens sometimes. So I think Quentin Byfield will be a center based off of his size, but again, you need to be good at winning the draw. So that's going to be important for Quentin Byfield in his NHL career. I think they just put that on there just to have him in the top 6 or whatever. So I appreciate the support, Yossi Sandler. Much appreciated, brother. Guys, that's it for this week's podcast. We are just over a half hour in. Guys, I appreciate the support as always. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and I'll see you this weekend as we are going to be cranking out a ton of content. So guys, if you have not already, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a very, very happy Thanksgiving.